So this really does look like it's one of the largest stones here at Baalbek. Probably one of the size of one of the 400-ton stones. We're just heading down towards the west side of the temple. So this is on the southern edge of the west part of the temple with the big columns here. I'm not sure the name of this part, but this has caught my attention. Not only that, over here we have a whole row of stones which are at least 12 feet tall and about 25 or 30 feet long, suggesting these are all several hundred tons. So this one is immense on its own. It would obviously go down behind the steps. And over here we have similar sized ones, much more weathered. This must have been protected by rubble. Absolutely amazing. Baalbek is becoming my favourite megalithic site already. So we have a whole wall here going all the way along, like a part of the foundations, part of the platform of extremely large blocks. These weren't carved from the bedrock, these were bought from the quarry and they were placed here. Now these are in excess, these have to be more than 400 tons. It's hard to estimate at the moment. We're going to go up top and see how deep they are, maybe take some measurements if we can. They're so big it's almost impossible. But as I walk down here, you'll just see the magnitude of these. I mean, look, this is at least 12 foot tall, maybe 15 feet. Look how wide it is, it's like 12 paces. These must be like, you know, 400, maybe 500 tons each. It's incredible. They go all the way down there, right to the wall at the end. So we're just on at the mega platform here, and you can see, as Brian Hayes has just pointed out, there's like circular saw marks here, like where they've been swinging saws around. And one way or another, there's some kind of technology evident here of how they were cutting the stone. Yeah, Chester just pointed out this very fine groove join of the two stones, really beautifully done. Then you have the kind of circular, what looks like circular saw cuts up top there. Standing right next to some of the perfectly cut blocks. They're really perfectly cut and the joinery is insane. Almost like precision, a bit like Peru, a bit like Egypt, but working with mega supersized blocks. So all along here, these are the top of the stones that I just walked along. Just to get a sense of these, just take a little walk. Sorry about the shaky camera. This is literally on top of one of the blocks, and look at this. I mean, you can barely fit it in the camera lens, it's so big. This doesn't stop, this just goes on and on and on. So we're just in the courtyard of the temple of Bacchus, which you can see there, and this is where all the mega stones are, just on the opposite side. And I just walked along here, and there's more here. Behind it, there's more mega blocks. So we're not talking one layer of mega blocks, we're talking entire platform. You can see slightly smaller ones above it, quite large ones up there. They're actually quite impressive, but nothing like the ones down here and over in the wall opposite the Bacchus temple. So we are literally standing on one of the 800-ton blocks in the western wall here at Baalbek. So we're actually standing on the scaffolding on the western wall, and you can just see just about from this angle, just below me are the 800-ton stones, and below them are the 400-ton stones. So it's amazing to actually be up here, like literally on the wall itself. Probably not supposed to be here, but it's just worth getting some shots here so you can get kind of grasp the magnitude of some of these stones. And just over this side here, you can see the western edge. This again, just below me, is one of the 800-ton stones. And below me further with the ledge, the 400-ton stones. So these are extremely ancient, some of the largest moved stones on the planet. Also, you can see the back of some of these blocks here. They're very reminiscent of what we see in the Valley Temple and the Sphinx Temple. Similar kind of limestone. They're kind of rough hewn, but they have these sort of almost polygonal, irregular kind of shapes carved all over them. Okay, so I just realised what might be going on here. We see the Bacchus Temple here, but just down here where this whole row of mega blocks are that we saw previously, you see the one at the end there, they kind of come down here and then they continue across here at the same level as the 800 ton and 400 ton blocks. And there's a column that's been placed there. So it seems like a smaller platform that goes to the end there, all the way down here, and then continues along there, then takes a left. So like all over this area here, from here, all the way over there and to the western wall behind me, was the original megalithic platform, and it got extended by later cultures. This is what seems to be taking place here. Or it could have been a strange shape. There could actually be platforms actually under the ground here in the Bacchus Temple kind of courtyard. This is very, very, very strange and very interesting. But just to be able to walk here, this is what we have on the floor here, is actually one of the 800 ton blocks. We have columns embedded in the wall above it, so these are probably later. We have another column here which is part of the wall, but here is the block that got raised about 30 feet in the air, dragged from the quarry nearly a kilometre away, and it's just impressing generations, marvelling at its magnitude since many, many thousands of years ago potentially. So we're up right on top of the western wall here. Way below me here are the 800 ton blocks and the 400 ton blocks. Then we have the view, the beautiful mountains here, and over there as well. Absolutely amazing. What an interesting valley, the Bekaa Valley here in ancient Lebanon. So when we're talking about megaliths here at Baalbek, it's not just the big square or rectangular blocks. We have these huge columns. It could have been part of the earlier temple, but more likely they were recut from the massive stones that were already here. These are more huge blocks here at Baalbek, absolutely massive ones. Quite difficult to see down there, but these are in excess of 400 to 600 tons. We're hopefully going to get a chance to walk down there and take a look. And these are just part of the northern part of the site, northern wall, whereas the western wall is behind me. Then you've got the southern part over there where we saw the other big blocks. So there's this whole route of mega blocks, and these are absolutely massive. I've seen photos of these before, but we're looking at them right from above here, so we've not got the best view, but these are absolutely massive. So down here are some of the biggest megaliths there are. Over this side, the western wall there, and all down here, some of the largest platform stones here at Baalbek. Should be able to see them. We're going to go and have a look around the outer edge. So this is a blocked doorway with almost identical kind of design in the lintel as those we find in Tiwanaku and Pumapunku in Bolivia. So that's interesting to spot that here. Whether it was a doorway to nowhere, some kind of, ceremonial portal or something else, we don't know. But it's here, so it seems like it's been deliberately blocked up by a perfectly cut piece of stone. So the other doorway with the sort of Bolivian looking lintel was round there, and this one is interesting as well. Another blocked doorway, it's very big. Brian, go and stand in front of it. I just want to get a sense of size. We've got Brian Hayes here. So this gives you a sense of the size. So it's impressive in its own right. I mean, anywhere else that would be classed as a incredibly megalithic wall and doorway and lintel, combined with all this and this. But the big stuff's over the other side, behind over there, where it gets really megalithic. This one actually has some kind of protrusion on it with a square hole in it. So the protrusions, obviously we see these in Peru and Egypt and other places. So Brian Hayes has just spotted this here in this corner, you can see where it kind of curves and then joins. So this is virtually identical, although with limestone rather than granite, as the Valley Temple. And you can see that there. We zoom in a bit so we get a bit of resolution. You can see that the way that joins, it kind of curves around, the rock is curved around. So it's quite an impressive way of doing it. And then we have these kind of things on either side. So even though this is probably Phoenician or maybe earlier, this is very interesting. So this is kind of facing west, and here are the mega dark blocks that we were looking at from above earlier. You can just see them here. See how big they are? They are remarkable. Wow. These are absolutely massive. So let's just take a walk along this wall here, and I'm gonna just turn the camera around on me so you can just get a sense of the size of these as we walk along compared to me. And I'm like walking just a couple of feet away from the wall. No, it does actually look like this could have been part of the construction, part of the entrance to this particular part of the temple. It may have been a temple to Baal, it may have been an earlier temple to other gods, to the Titans, even to Kronos or Cain, who was said to be one of the builders, and they were all linked and connected with the Nephilim, a biblical tradition. And it really does seem like if anyone's going to have built this, it was giants. Let's just take a look further down here, because these are big. These are just a different league to most of the site. So you can just get a sense of scale here. These are at least, what, 12 feet tall, 25 feet long, probably 12, 15 feet wide, probably weighing 400 tons each, within the interior of the northern wall that connects with the western wall right down at the other end. So this is obviously one of the super ancient foundations, although there are slightly smaller stones propping the big stones up. So this is where this stone begins. See how far it goes this way. It's just ridiculous. Again, like we find even in the huge stone underground in Jerusalem, we find these holes in them, which seems to be a design spec of whoever did this. Also, it's a darker type of limestone. Whether that's some kind of weathering that's done this, I don't know, because some bits are broken off, and you can actually see that that may not be the case. It could actually just be like that. It could be a different quality from a slightly different quarry, but these could easily have been quarried from the famous Baalbek quarry where the stone of the pregnant woman is, because it's the same kind of size. So we're actually on top of this wall now. You can see that's one side of it. See the sheer magnitude of these. Oh my goodness. You've got one that's protruding outwards. This one's been shaped. We were looking down upon this from above, remember? It's got the squares in it, holes in it, carved out the solid blocks. We're basically almost going to walk up to the western wall if we keep going. But you can see the weathering on this is amazing and extremely ancient. So I'm just going to walk the full length of this. I'm sorry about the shaky camera. The Osmo's out battery, unfortunately, but this is still pretty cool. You can see the extreme weathered limestone with moss, lichen all over it. There's just a niche there. We're kind of up to the end here. We're almost at the corner of the western wall. So we see little pieces cut out here. The sun will come round in a minute and light it up. And these are probably the famous sort of shaped blocks that make up the first part of the northern western corner of the western wall. And there we have it going all the way to the end. You can see Chester walking along there. So this just shows you the magnificence and size of what we're dealing with here. Even over here you've got blocks that look like they're puffy, almost polygonal, with protrusions on, not dissimilar to what we find on some of the pyramids and at the Sphinx and Valley Temple in Giza. So we have to question, is there a connection here with the people who built that? We know there is. Whether they were the same builders is a whole other question. More holes here. And there's no explanation as to who did them, why they were done, why they needed to use such large blocks, but they did. And here's the evidence. It really does feel like we're in the Temple of the Giants here at Baalbek today. You can see these stones behind me. That doorway is like 10 or 12 feet tall. And then we go further down here and it just gets ridiculous. These stones are just outrageous. You can see that all the way along this wall. It must be like 100 meters long. We've got the one at the end here, which joins with the western wall. We're going to go around there, look at the outside of this wall first, and then go to the western wall. Should have some really good light on it now. So this is the northern wall. It's not known as anything here really. It's just part of the retaining wall, they call it, next to the western wall. We're just waiting for the sun to shine on it so we get some good light. This is the way in. It's been blocked up now, but you can climb through, and that's where it's really impressive. That's where we've just been inside and seen it all from within. But it continues up here. So let's go and take a look at what we're really here for, the 800 tons trilithon. 3 stones, 800 tons each, still in the wall. So this is the famous western wall. You can see the huge 3 trilithons. They're not this level. These are the 400 ton stones. So one's above. 3 of those 800 plus tons each. They came from the same quarry of nearby as a stone of the pregnant woman. So it's pretty impressive. Even the stones just going around this side, the 400 tonners, and going along here, are still very impressive. Just to give you a sense of scale, I'm standing right next to it. This is just utterly remarkable, and just a deep antiquity without a doubt. So just below that bush there, that's where the seam is. And then that continues all the way around here and goes round the side here, quite a long way. So that alone is incredibly impressive. So we're just looking at trying to find the seam, and you can just see there, God, you can barely see it. It's so tight, it's almost invisible. That there is the seam, the join in this rock, and it's so precise you couldn't fit a card between the rocks there. That's remarkable for such large size blocks, especially being limestone, which is quite rough hewn in itself naturally. This is a good quality, obviously, type of limestone they've used. But let's remember the ones above there as well, because these are very high up. They're at least 30 feet up from the ground level, and these are 800 tons. So imagine how many people, how much effort that would take to bring from the quarry. There's been estimates done of something like 500 people moving it around, but even if you did that, that's over a ton each. If they're 800 tons, 800 people would be 1 ton each. So get real, just how would you do that? And there's no evidence the Romans did that. That's why it's often said that giants did it. There's also some traditions that say demons did it, much like we get at places like Avebury and at megalithic sites in England, which can't be explained at all. Just to give a bit of reference here, I mean, I've said this a few times already, there's 800-ton blocks on top there, in the middle of the wall, and then below that are at least 400-ton blocks. So there's something like, you know, several thousand tons just sitting here right in front of us of just a certain number of blocks. And you see the weathering on the two levels do suggest a very deep antiquity. There's been references as to why that is, and when the blocks above aren't. These are said to be like Islamic stonework up here, the very top. More like Roman, I would imagine, but we know the Islamic people were very smart with stone as well. So we have these 800-ton blocks here, and look at that gap there where smaller stones have been put in. Pierre was telling us, our expert here, that in fact a stone was once in there. That would be the end of the stone, like the square end of it, going long ways, heading east into the temple, along the top of the wall around the corner. But that would also fit very neatly, if we look, we just walk around here, sorry about the shaky camera, that would fit all the way along there, above this wall. So all along the wall here that we just explored with the dark stone, on top of that could be where the quarry stones were going to go. And this was added later instead to fill in the space, but it looks like they would have easily fitted all the way along there, quite effortlessly, all the way to the end even, with all the ones that are in the quarry, the 3 stones that never got finished. So there is a compelling argument that that may indeed be the case.